People start paying more attention when he talks because it doesn't happen constantly. His voice becomes something that sticks out rather than blending into the cacophony of the discourse. This doesn't mean he is silent because he is shy or unsure of himself. The distinction is minor yet essential. A shy individual stays mute because they are uncomfortable speaking. A confident man speaks less because he doesn't feel the need to fill every moment with words. He is comfortable letting others to communicate. Many women find this refreshing because good listening is rare. In social contexts, people generally focus on themselves and their personal tales. A man who actually listens feels different to interact with. He reacts wisely rather than fast. His presence in the discourse feels calmer. Instead of competing for attention, he offers only when it adds something valuable. Another fascinating consequence comes when a man speaks less. People begin to reflect greater curiosity onto him. When someone shares everything about themselves quickly, there is nothing left to uncover. But when someone communicates intelligently and selectively, it automatically produces a sense of intrigue. People begin wondering what else he might be thinking. In a world where many interactions are loud, fast, and full of interruptions, the man who speaks less often stands out without even trying. His remarks feel more deliberate, and sometimes saying less makes people listen more. Section 4. He is entirely comfortable with silence. One thing many men struggle with is quiet. The moment a conversation turns quiet, they feel pressure to remedy it immediately. They start chatting quicker, making strange jokes, or bringing up issues that don't actually matter just to avoid the uncomfortable pause. But here's the truth many men need to hear. Silence is not a problem. The underlying problem is the panic that some guys show when quiet appears. When a man strives to fill every quiet moment, it frequently signals anxiousness. It suggests that he feels responsible for entertaining everyone or keeping the excitement alive at all times. Instead of looking confident, it can make him appear uneasy with the circumstance. And ladies notice this soon. Silence is a normal aspect of human connection. Conversations breathe. They pause. They slow down. But many guys have trained themselves to feel that a quiet moment implies they are losing attention. So they react. They talk more. They joke more. They explain things that don't need explaining. And in doing so, they often weaken their own presence. Now, here's when the difference becomes clear. A man who is comfortable with silence doesn't panic when the talk pauses. He doesn't rush to fill the void. He allows the moment to exist without feeling frightened by it. This generates a very different vibe. Instead of the conversation feeling strained, it feels natural. His composure shows that he is not desperate for acceptance or attention. He realizes that a pause does not signal something is wrong. This kind of activity shows emotional control, and that's something many people, especially women, pick up on quickly. Men need to wake up to something vital here. The world does not need another man continually attempting to perform for attention. It needs men who are comfortable in their own presence even when nothing is being spoken. If silence makes you uncomfortable, that's usually a sign that you are relying too much on external approval. You feel like you must keep talking in order to stay fascinating. But real confidence doesn't function like that. Real confidence allows room. It allows a moment to breathe without feeling the urge to control it. When a man can sit in silence without looking frightened, without hurrying to speak, and without seeking approbation, his presence starts to feel grounded and serene. And in a society where many people are constantly trying to prove themselves, that kind of peacefulness stands out more than endless talking ever would. Section 5. He doesn't react to every little thing. Many men today fall into a fairly frequent trap. They react to everything. Every comment, every joke, every minor challenge, every dispute. They feel the need to answer instantly. Sometimes they protect themselves. Sometimes they dispute. Sometimes they try to show the other person incorrect. But the more a man reacts to every small thing, the more it demonstrates that other people govern his emotional condition. And that's something people notice quickly. Think about how often males get sucked into pointless debates or explanations. Someone makes a little remark, and suddenly the man feels the urge to reprimand them. Someone teases him gently, and he rushes to protect himself. The situation grows greater than it needed to be. Now, here's the difference with a man who carries himself differently. He doesn't react to everything. That doesn't mean he is passive or weak. It simply implies he recognizes that not everything deserves his attention or efforts. Some remarks are not important enough to respond to. Some crises resolve themselves without necessitating his assistance. This produces an entirely different perception. When a man reacts to every little thing, people can perceive emotional tension. It feels like he is constantly preserving his image or attempting to control how people see him. But when a man chooses his reactions carefully, his presence feels steadier. He doesn't rush to defend himself. He doesn't leap into every disagreement. He listens, observes, and evaluates whether the situation genuinely requires a response. This kind of behavior shows emotional stability. It shows that he is not readily rocked by tiny comments or social pressure, and that tranquility is obvious. Many women consciously or instinctively pay attention to how a man manages pressure or modest hurdles. If he becomes defensive or reactive instantly, it can imply insecurity. But if he remains calm and composed, it implies that he is secure with himself and does not feel threatened by every perspective in the room. Men typically think power implies dominating conversations or winning every debate. But in many circumstances, the better option is simply not reacting at all. Because reacting to everything demonstrates that people can easily control your emotions. Choosing when to react displays control over yourself. The man who carries himself this manner glides through social situations with more composure. He doesn't get sucked into unneeded tension, and he doesn't waste energy on little arguments. And over time, people began to regard him as someone who is emotionally steady, not because he attempted to prove it, but because he never felt the need to respond to everything around him. Section 6. He goes slowly and deliberately. One thing many men seldom think about is how swiftly they move. In social circumstances, a lot of males speed through everything. They walk rapidly, speak quickly, gesture quickly, and react quickly. Their movements often feel restless, almost like they are attempting to keep up with something invisible. Most of the time, they don't even realize it, but other people do. Fast, hasty movements can sometimes indicate anxiousness or impatience. It can give the appearance that a man is uncomfortable in the setting or trying too hard to keep up with everyone around him. This is quite frequent today because life itself feels rushed. People are continuously shifting from one thing to the next. Phones buzz, talks jump topics, and attention shifts every few seconds. Many men inadvertently carry the same frantic intensity into their body language. Now compare that to a man who moves slowly and methodically. His movements are not languid or slow. They are merely regulated. When he walks, he isn't racing to get somewhere unless he actually needs to. When he sits down, he does it carefully instead of dropping into the chair fast. When he gestures while speaking, it feels natural rather than excessive. Nothing about him feels hurried. This kind of body language delivers a very subtle message. He is comfortable where he is. He doesn't look like someone who feels pressure to perform, impress, or continually change himself. His speed shows that he feels in control of his time and his environment. People typically interpret this as confidence, even if they cannot explain exactly why. Think about how frequently you've encountered someone who moves swiftly and nervously in a conversation. They fidget, shift their weight continuously, alter their clothing, or check their phone continually. Even if they are speaking the right things, their body language provides a different impression. It feels restless. A man who moves carefully avoids that emotion totally. His presence appears calm and stable since his body language is not rushing to catch up with the room. Another crucial part of this is patience. When a man goes slowly and carefully, it shows he is not afraid of time passing. He is not attempting to speed through the moment. He is present in the situation rather than continuously thinking about the next thing. That kind of relaxed pace is rare today. Many people are used to fast, distracted energy. So when someone moves with calm control, it automatically sticks out. Not because he is trying to grab attention, but because his presence feels different from the continual bustle around him. Sometimes the way a man moves tells more about his confidence than the words he chooses. And often the men who appear the most poised are simply the ones who refuse to rush their own presence. Section 7. He doesn't need approval. One of the main things that impacts how a man carries himself is whether or not he seeks approval from others. Many men don't realize how often they look for it. It shows up in minor behaviors, scrutinizing people's reactions after making a joke, explaining themselves too much, attempting to make sure everyone agrees with what they say, or constantly modifying their opinions to meet the group. It may seem innocent, but over time it sends a clear signal. This man wants to be accepted at all costs, and people observe that when a man continuously wants praise, his behavior starts to center around pleasing others. He chuckles at jokes he doesn't find humorous. He agrees with opinions he doesn't actually believe. He avoids speaking things that might provoke debate. The result is that his personality begins to look flexible depending on who he is around. This can make a man look nice in the short term, but it often diminishes how others perceive him. People begin to sense that he is altering himself to fit the room rather than simply being himself. Now, compare that to a man who doesn't depend on approbation. This doesn't mean he is nasty or dismissive. He still respects people and listens to their ideas. The distinction is that his sense of self doesn't vary based on whether others approve of him. He is comfortable having his own opinions. He doesn't panic if someone disagrees with him. He doesn't feel the need to explain himself constantly just to make sure everyone is satisfied. This kind of action provides a strong sense of personal stability. His identity feels consistent since it is not continually moving to accommodate the expectations of the room. Many women detect this kind of independence fast. A man who is not thirsty for approval appears more grounded. His decisions and beliefs seem to originate from his own thinking rather than social pressure. That sensation of independence frequently feels refreshing. Think about how many conversations include people meticulously trying to say the perfect thing so that everyone will approve. It becomes predictable. People filter themselves continually to prevent any type of dispute. A man who is comfortable expressing his actual ideas quietly and respectfully stands out in that environment, nor because he is louder, nor because he is trying to dominate the room, but because he is not modifying his identity to earn approval. He understands something many guys struggle to accept. Not everyone needs to agree with you. When a man quits chasing approval, his conduct automatically becomes more easygoing. He listens better, speaks more honestly, and passes through social settings without continually checking if people like him. And unfortunately, that is generally the moment when people start valuing him more. Conclusion. Here's the contentious fact that most men won't admit. Women notice calm, confident males significantly more than flashy, boisterous, or trying too hard men. And yet, most men spend their entire lives doing the exact opposite. Showing off, performing, fighting for attention, and continually seeking acceptance. Let me be quite clear. The guy with the loudest voice, the fanciest automobile, or the greatest physique does not automatically draw respect or interest. In fact, in many cases, he's doing exactly what pushes women away. He's expressing insecurity veiled as performance. Women appreciate modest confidence, mental stability, and guys who carry themselves without demanding confirmation. That's what truly stands out. Here's when it gets unpleasant for some. Most men will never realize their full potential in attractiveness because they are consumed with attempting to please individuals who don't really matter. They laugh too loudly, talk too much, and respond to everything, tiring themselves in the process. But a man who sits back, speaks less, walks slowly, and doesn't react to every little thing, that man commands attention without even trying. That individual becomes memorable. That man becomes magnetic. So here's my challenge for you. Stop chasing approval. Stop performing and start studying yourself. Notice how your presence feels in a room, how you respond to silence, and how your energy impacts others. Start carrying yourself with calm, purposeful confidence, and you'll notice something remarkable. People will begin noticing you. I want to hear your experiences. Have you ever spotted someone like this? Or have you tried carrying yourself differently and observed a shift in how people respond? Comment below, tell your story, and I promise I will call out. I want to connect with you, share your difficulties, and help you see how minor adjustments in the way you conduct yourself may radically shift how people view you. Remember, this isn't about manipulation, looks, or tactics. It's about mastering the quiet power of presence. And once you realize it, everything changes. You're not trying to impress anyone, yet everyone notices. Most men assume women notice the loudest person in the room, the individual with the largest musculature, the priciest attire, or the one who speaks the most. However, here lies the disconcerting reality that numerous men are reluctant to acknowledge. Women frequently observe the reserved man initially, not due to a desire to impress others or to exhibit ostentation, but rather as a result of his demeanor. You may have encountered this previously without recognizing it. A man enters a room, prompting immediate awareness among the occupants. He did not deliver a speech. He did not seek attention. However, there is an aspect of him that seems distinct. Women perceive him very immediately. And here's the controversial part. It has very little to do with his looks. Many men spend years focusing on the wrong things. They assume attraction is all about beauty, money, or attempting to act like someone they're not. But the truth is, women are incredibly sensitive to behavior, energy, and confidence cues that most guys completely overlook. The way you walk, the way you sit, how comfortable you are in solitude, how you react when people confront you. These simple things say far more than words ever could. The intriguing thing is that the men who naturally attract attention rarely strive to. They're not chasing approval. They're not performing for the room. They simply conduct themselves with a certain serene composure that stands out in a society when many individuals are constantly seeking validation. And ladies notice that immediately. In this video, we're going to break down the subtle ways certain men hold themselves that women pick up on almost instantaneously. These are not scams, pickup lines, or manipulative methods. They're basic practices and mindsets that impact the way people perceive you. Once you grasp these signals, you'll start recognizing them everywhere in social settings, at business, and even in regular interactions. So let's look at the ways males carry themselves that women seem to notice right away. Section 1, he is fine being ignored. One of the most visible features a man can have is something many men are truly frightened of, being ignored. Most men enter into a room hoping to be noticed. They change their voice, laugh a little louder, chat longer than required, or try to impress people with anecdotes and achievements. The intention is straightforward. They seek attention. But the instant a man needs attention, it typically becomes clear. Women are quite skilled at picking up these signals. When a man repeatedly strives to prove himself, it can come across as insecurity, even if he doesn't mean it that way. Now here's where things turn interesting. A man who is perfectly content being ignored throws off a very different signal. He sits, stands, or moves around the environment without continuously checking whether people are watching him. He doesn't force talks. He doesn't try to dominate the room. He merely exists there calmly. And oddly, that often makes people notice him more. Why? Because confidence is generally silent. When someone does not seem anxious for approval, people naturally get intrigued about them. They start wondering who he is, what he does, and why he seems so relaxed while everyone else is striving to perform. It generates a subtle type of fascination. This doesn't mean the man is antisocial or hostile. It just means he is comfortable with himself, whether people pay attention to him or not. Many males struggle with this since social contexts can feel like competitions. Who is the funniest? Who has the finest stories? Who receives the most attention? But the individual who doesn't feel the urge to compete typically stands out in a totally different way. His presence feels stable and serene. That level of enthusiasm is rare. One, envision a large gathering where numerous males are trying to entertain everyone. One is delivering loud stories. Another is joking continuously, while another keeps interrupting conversations just to offer something. Then there's one man sitting comfortably, listening more than communicating. He's easygoing, occasionally smiling, occasionally giving a small comment when it actually matters. He isn't trying to take over the discourse. At first, no one pays any attention to him, but after a while, people start noticing something strange. When he speaks, others listen more intently. His quiet presence feels steady, contrasted to the continual cacophony surrounding him. Even some of the women in the group begin to peek at him out of interest, not because he wanted attention, but because he never chased it. Section 2. He doesn't strive to impress people. One of the most common mistakes that men make is continuously attempting to impress people. They talk about their achievements, their money, their connections, or the things they've done. The purpose is typically simple. They want others, especially women, to regard them as valuable. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone is continuously striving to impress others, it typically has the opposite impact. Why? Because it might make a man look like he's looking for approval. Women tend to notice this immediately. When a man is continuously proving himself, it can feel like he requires approval from the room. Even if what he's saying is accurate, the emotion behind it can feel forced. Now, compare that to a man who doesn't feel the need to impress anyone. He doesn't list his accomplishments. He doesn't strive to show off what he has. He doesn't make every discussion into a chance to prove how successful or intriguing he is. Instead, he invites people to learn things about him naturally. This produces an entirely different perception. When a man is not striving to prove anything, it shows that he is already comfortable with who he is. His confidence feels modest and natural rather than contrived. People often grow more curious about him. They start asking inquiries instead. What do you do? How did you learn that? Wait, you've traveled there before? When someone is continuously striving to impress, it feels like they are selling themselves. But when someone doesn't aim to impress, it frequently feels like there is nothing to prove. And it is what many people understand as actual confidence. This doesn't mean a man should hide his successes or pretend he hasn't done anything in life. It simply means he doesn't feel the need to bring those things up solely to garner attention or favor. He lets the conversation run freely. The fascinating thing is that people tend to respect that much more. 1. Imagine two males at a social function. The first man continuously talks about his career, how busy he is, how much he earns, and the locations he has traveled. Every conversation somehow returns to his successes. The second man appears comfortable and engaged in the talk. He listens, asks questions, and shares small bits of his life when they organically fit the issue. He never attempts to prove he's impressive. Later in the chat, someone casually asks what he does for work. When he answers, they discover he truly has a highly successful profession. The distinction is straightforward. He didn't strive to impress people, and that frequently makes the impression even greater. Section 3. He speaks less than other males. One thing many men miss is the concept that being fascinating entails talking a lot. In many social circumstances, guys feel pressure to keep discussions running constantly. They give long stories, get into every topic, and attempt to make sure their voice is heard as often as possible. But in truth, speaking more doesn't automatically make someone more engaging. In fact, it can sometimes do the opposite. When a man talks too much, people begin to notice that he is filling every gap in the discussion. He may interrupt without realizing it, repeat himself, or start talking before others have finished their remarks. Instead of feeling confident, it can come across as nervous energy. Women generally notice this dynamic fast. A man who speaks incessantly can accidentally imply that he is trying to control the conversation or keep attention on himself. The room begins to feel like he is performing rather than simply participating. Now compare that to a man who speaks less than everyone else. He listens carefully. He pays attention to what people are saying instead of thinking about what he will say next. When he does speak, it's usually short, straightforward, and pertinent to the discourse. Because of this, his words frequently carry more weight.